Okay, so we're talking about American Evangelicalism this year.
Is it evangelicalism or evangelicalism, Scott?
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to go with, I think I say evangelicalism most of the time. What do you say?
I just say evangelicalism.
Oh, well, this year we're talking about American Evangelicalism. Check out another church if you want to talk about evangelicalism. This year we're talking about American Evangelicalism. We have some pretty big names that are going to be with us. David Burks, Kristen Kobus-Dume, Kelly Carter-Jackson. Woo! Yes. I'm really excited about it. We think this is important for our church, but can we start by looking at why does talking about evangelicalism matter to us? Like personally, why do these matter to you?
I don't think that I realized that it was part of the water we were swimming in. I grew up in the Covenant Church, and so I've recognized being in community with other Protestant Christians in particular, that there were huge influences of evangelicalism that I wasn't even aware of. And so kind of just pulling the wool from my own eyes to say, what if this is culturally influenced? What if this is scripturally influenced? What if this is Holy Spirit driven? That's just been very illuminating. And I think pastorally, I've just run into so many folks at Highrock who were wrestling with those same questions and maybe didn't even realize the extent that evangelicalism had impacted how they saw God and what they thought it meant to be a Christian. What about you?
I think about the ways that I was shaped by evangelicalism that have really stuck with me. Like there's been a vibrant relationship with Jesus that I still hold dear, a really living spirituality. And I appreciate that we're now opening up this space where we can say, here's this tradition that shaped who I am. How do I keep what was good and beautiful, but also look critically and appreciatively at some of these really big questions? What do you see God doing in these conversations amongst our community?
I think I have appreciated folks' posture in the conversations. People offering a lot of charity to the speakers that we've had as members of Christ's body, even if there are sharp disagreements about certain things that some of our guests have believed, publicly, right? Like we had Russell Moore on with us, and there is stuff that he believes about how the church should work or about who God is that I don't agree with. And I know that other folks feel like similarly. And yet the charity that was offered, the appreciation for the work that he has done in the name of the gospel, I think was really beautiful to me because it showed what could be possible, that we don't have to, have a lock on what the church could be, have a lock on who God is and what God is asking Jesus' followers to do in the world. That part was beautiful to me, the posture shifting. What about you?
There was a question that was posed to a couple of our guests about how to be a community that has differences and diversity within it. And a question was posed as, does that involve compromise? Does that mean we're just only going to get so far on things? And I saw the way that our guest answered that, but also our participants come around and interact with that question with charity, because there's not an easy answer to it. There are places where that works and that doesn't work. And yet seeing people say, hey, I at least see and want to understand the other side on this, even if I know I'll probably end up disagreeing, but we're part of a community, we're part of a church. Can we find a way to talk about these things, to share what we think, and to see, is there ways forward as we're trying to be a church and to witness to God's goodness and grace? We're going to be talking about really big topics. So we're talking about masculinity and politics and reading the Bible and gender issues. These are like big topics. Yep. I hope that we get to have meaningful, important, serious conversations, but then I'm hoping that God shows up and shows us grace, like having grace for one another, realizing these are difficult conversations, having grace for ourselves, and then when appropriate, even having some levity, being able to ask Russell Moore, what kind of hair product does he use? That really happened.
And we might hear from these like big names, and maybe that's a reason people come in because they want to hear from someone whose book they read or someone that they admire or maybe even someone they disagree with, right? But at the end of the day, to be able to look at those speakers and say, they're people trying to follow Jesus who just have been given a little bit of a larger platform. And that person across from me on the Zoom screen that sometimes I sit next to in the pew, that's also just a person trying to follow Jesus. And how can we learn from everyone that we're interacting with in that space, right? Like that really is this dream, I think.
This stuff is important. Yeah. And I think that what we want to do is to learn how to follow Jesus Christ into the important and hard questions.